What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Welcome back to another and final preview for the weekend of the Autumn Nations coming up. We've already done a bunch of other preview videos on the channel. Make sure to go check those ones out after this one. And if you like this style of video, make sure to subscribe because there's a bunch more videos coming out, especially with some of the match reports coming out over the weekend. So this one, France versus Japan. What a way to seal out the weekend. Let's start off by talking about France, because France last week played South Africa in quite an exciting game. A real tight-knit game. Both teams had the potential to win. We had an early red card for South Africa. Then I was like, oh no, the game is going to get ruined because they're going to have 14 men. France is slowly going to walk over them. South Africa defended extremely well. They managed to fight through most of that game, and then France got themselves a red card, evened up the player boundaries, and it was just an all-out scrap to the end. Superb game, won the poll on the channel as the best game of the weekend. So going into this one, France have got a bit of things to work on. They don't want to be getting any more red cards, but the things they were doing well last week, they'll want to try and continue. So taking a look at the team. Now, one of the things that jumps off first of all is, of course, there's been a lot of switches on the go here. Now, I know Japan not as highly ranked as South Africa, probably in terms of, like, the world rankings when people think of rugby, but Japan are no pushovers. We saw that game only a few weeks ago versus New Zealand, and we saw how close that scoreline was against, a high number of cap players in that New Zealand team. So Japan are no pushovers. They'll absolutely go for this one. So hopefully they haven't made too many changes here. Starting off in this front row, then we have Wardy goes in alongside of Julien Marchand and Antonio in that front row. Now, Marchand and Antonio have been playing together a long time now in this France team. I like them working together. The scrummaging for France, it was kind of difficult to judge scrums. I feel like we haven't really seen scrummaging across this sort of alternation yet, where one team's really just run over the other team. Japan, we always thought of as, like, not the biggest guys when it comes to, like, rugby, but they've really improved on, like, size, weight, all that stuff. So the scrum is no pushover. Be interesting to see how they get on. In the lock department then, Cameron Vuki and Taufai Fanua going in that lock department. Now, of course, Flamand was in the line-out last week. South African line-out is also a good line-out, so there was a lot of contestability there. I think what they've gone for here is just more, like, ridiculous. Like Taufai Fanua is an extremely tall guy. Like we've already said, human size of the Japan team isn't classed like as big as some other teams. So getting someone in there that's like 6'9", it's probably a good move to help you win more jumpers. In the back row, Jalanche goes in alongside of Olivant and Gregory Aldrit. Aldrit came off quite early last week, which was surprising because I thought he was playing well. Now, all three of these players are extremely good in the defence. Now, one thing that was quite surprising last week was how South Africa were playing their attack. I remember getting to one of the stats from last week that at about the 60-minute mark, in terms of dominant tackles made, France had 0 dominant tackles. Now, that sort of goes to show the attack that South Africa was bringing, especially when you've got boys like this on. They are big defenders. They will get over the ball. They will go for the jackal. But dominant tackles not really going their way last week. So something for them to improve this week, probably in terms of the way they're going to set up the defence. I know Sean Edwards probably won't have been that happy with how many points were conceded last week. They'll want to make an improvement on that. In the lock department then, of course, no Dupont due to the red card. So Maxime Loukou goes in ahead in the scrum half department alongside of Entomac. Looking forward to see how some mix-ups get on. It's one of the things when you get to that sort of staple of just having someone that's just, they're there every single week to mix it up a bit in the scrum half turn. Good to give him the shot, see how Loukou gets on. I probably should also mention that Olivant has moved to captain, of course, with Dupont's absence, but Olivant's been captain a number of times. I'm sure he's not too worried about taking on that duty. In the centre partnership then, Jonathan Darty comes in alongside of Gaël Ficou. Now, Darty picked a mega hit last week. I'm quite surprised to see his name in this list. He's a really good player, but we saw that shot to the head, took him out the game himself. So glad to see that he's okay. Glad to see he's been past all his HIA stuff for this game. No concussion. That's nice to see. And then in the back three, then Mofana on the left wing, Damien Pinot on the right wing, and Ramos goes in that fullback position, kicking well. Again, I think Ramos is playing good rugby at the minute. There is a number of boys that will be competing for that fullback position over in France. And Thomas Ramos holding them out at the minute. So nice to see. Overall, this is a good France team. There's only been a few switches round. I would imagine a couple of injuries and red cards and stuff is what's been the cause of that. We did see quite a lot of injuries in the France-South Africa game. But overall, it's a good-looking team. On to the replacements then. I moved the thing up a little bit because I didn't realise someone's name was being cut off. But in the replacements then, we have Malvaca comes in alongside of Priso, and Falatea last week got his try. Nice to see from him. Hopefully he'll make another big impact into the game this week. We also have Florian Verheijen. Hopefully I'm sort of pronouncing it right. That's a brand new name for me. Looking forward to see him get into this game alongside of Shadaru and Makalu. So going for the 6-2 split, probably the right move against Japan. Japan like an open game, to be fair, though. The defense will be spread wide. You're going to be running out of players potentially in terms of stamina and what have you. But going for the 6-2 split, going for the dominance and the power, France going to back their power game for this one. I would have expected this, to be honest. There'll probably be quite a few driving mauls in this game. You'll probably see them just working through the phases, maybe spreading it out wide if it really gets there. I imagine Japan will be the team wanting to play it wider, especially in that first half anyway. Although we did get to see Makalu last week go onto the wing, which is fun because someone did mention in the comments he's actually able to play on the wing. And he didn't have a bad game, to be fair, so nice to see him out there. And then in terms of the replacement backs, then we have Courrier alongside of Mathieu Jalibert. Yeah, Courrier is a sort of player we haven't really got to see a lot of. I mean, it's hard to get into this team when you have people like Antoine Dupont ahead of you in that scrum half position. So it'd be nice to see him get in there. Mathieu Jalibert, I don't really feel I've seen him make an impact from the bench yet. He keeps coming on in these games. France have taken a little bit of time to warm up into this autumn series, but I feel like if you're going to bring on someone like Mathieu Jalibert from the bench, you want to see him come on and completely switch the style of the game. Every time Jalibert comes on, it seems to devolve a bit more into kicking tennis and sort of doing some open unders and so on, chasing. There's not that impact for me at the minute, so I'm really hoping he comes on in this game and really makes a big impact in that second half, try and help out this France team. But overall, looking like a good France side. On to Japan then, who last week went on to play England and suffered quite a heavy defeat. Kind of took me by surprise considering how well they did against that New Zealand team only a few weeks back. England took a real step up in that game and just sort of took charge. Japan struggling to really get a foothold in the game. Every time they sort of started to get a bit of momentum going, there was something that went wrong for them, a handling error, a penalty here or there. England really trying to work on that breakdown position for them. So Japan will be a bit annoyed. I think that they didn't make more of an impression on this game. Now going into this game, they have made a few switches in this one, which I thought maybe they'd want to keep a bit of a consistent team, but they've gone for the switch up. They've done a couple of changes I'm quite surprised at, so we will have a look at their team. So in this front row then, Inagaki, Sakate and Gu. Of course, we saw these boys last week play against England. So in terms of that scrummaging, when we talk about, the 6-2 split the France have gone for, these boys are going to be put under a bit of pressure in that scrum time. I'm sure France will want to try and wear these guys out as soon as possible, get the replacements on as soon as possible in that second half, and then you really begin to put the pressure on. In the lock department, Derns and Cornelissen also staying on from last week against England. Lineout's not terrible for Japan. It's just struggling against England. They had some good jumpers in some good places. They were making a bit of a nuisance to themselves. The England lineout not 100% perfect last week, and they were definitely getting their hands in the way. And then in the back row, a bit of a switch here now. Michael Leach comes in the 6 shirt alongside of Labuschagne, and Jimeno moves to the number 8 shirt rather than 7. Now, Jimeno against England was everywhere. The boy was not stopping. He was playing an exceptional game. I think he might actually be one of the real standouts in this Japan team at the minute. He's playing incredibly good rugby. He just needs people to support him. Get on his wing, get on the outside of him, get ready for those offloads, because I think Jimeno is making good carry meters. He's just taking it up to the line every single time, so hopefully he has a good game this week. In the halfback partnership then, 2 switching up. Big call to make a big switch up like this. Saito comes in alongside of Lee, who did come on in the last game. I can't remember if Yamasawa picked up an injury in the last game, but Lee did come on. Kicking was pretty good for him. He was definitely getting the kicks over when he had the opportunity to go for them. I'm not sure if missing out on like Nagare here over Saito. I like Nagare. I would maybe have stayed with him. Keep a bit more consistency throughout that team. We'll have to see how they get on. In the centre department then, Nakamura retains the inside centre and Nakano comes in on the outside centre as Riley's moving over to the right wing. Didn't know he had the capability of swapping between wing and centre, but nice to see. He'll be alongside of Faifita and Yamanaka in that fullback position. So Matsushima moved to the bench. Now last week Matsushima had a few issues. There was a lot of handling errors from him. He was really trying to support the players, but there must have been 5 or 6 handling errors for him. He did a couple of kicks that didn't really go anywhere. A couple of running lines, just ran into players as opposed to trying to find the space. I'm not too upset by this switch up here. I kind of like this. It'd be nice to see how this team gets on. I think Riley's doing extremely well as well. We saw him make a nice little break against England. So put him on the wing. got some heavy duty to do because the French wingers are pretty fast, pretty speedy. Trying to get around them is going to be a bit tricky, but we'll have to see how they get on. In the replacements then, we have Horikoshi, Miller and Takauchi, who will be coming on in that second half alongside of Van der Vaart, Tatafu, and that's it for the forwards. Actually, I thought they were going to go for the 6-2 split. That's a big call. France have gone for the 6-2. Oh man, I feel like that forward pack could get a bit rough in that second half. I really expected Japan to go for a 6-2 here. Okay, they've gone for the 5-3. Then you better be playing the ball wide. You better not be giving France a lot of possession in this game. And then in terms of the replacement backs, then Nagari comes in alongside of Nakeo and Matsushima coming on there. Of course, but, nice coverage. Can go on the wing, can come on at fullback. I really think that 6-2 split for France might be a bit of a clincher in this one, though. I can imagine that second half, French forwards really taking advantage of that. So in terms of a score prediction, then what do we think going into this game? I think France are on a bit of a roll at the minute in terms of their wins. Maybe they've been a bit scrappy to get there, but they are getting those consistent wins recently. So I'm going to say a France win for this one. I really feel like that 6-2 is going to be a key decision in this one. I think this could be a relatively decent score around half-time. I reckon 60 to 80 minutes is where this France team really begins to open up and just lets those big boys through. I'm going to say France to win. I'm going to go by a bit, actually, for this one. I'm going to say France to win by 16. I'm going to go a bit wild. Let's go a bit more outside. We've seen in the Super Brew that I'm normally a bit conservative with my points. Let's go a bit more wild. Let's see what happens. But of course, guys, make sure to drop down your thoughts in the comment section, your score predictions, who you think's going to win. And if you haven't already, get them on Super Brew because we are only a day away now from another awesome week of rugby. If you enjoyed this one today, guys, remember to leave it a like, and I will see you over the weekend for some match reports of some of the games. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.